Okay, before we start, I want to bring up uh well, we're recording this on Monday evening, which is 9/11. I just wanted to take a minute to remember 9/11 and everything that was associated with it. And I don't remember anything about like last Thursday or Friday, but I remember everything about that day, exactly where I was. I was at work, just listening to the radio, listening to WDVE. I remember the news saying a second plane is hit. And this is not an accident. This is terrorism, and just everything from that moment was just complete chaos. Where were you that day?
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember it crystal clear. I was in a newsroom at that time. I was working for Blue White Illustrated. It was associated with Rivals.com, which was a new venture back then.
Hmm.
And we were getting ready. Penn State was hosting Wisconsin that coming week, and we were getting our game prep ready. And I was sitting in my computer, and the crawl, which is also kind of new then, came across plane hit World Trade Center. Well, I had been with my girlfriend at the time. A couple months prior, we went on top of the World Trade Center. So you know how you do that, and you kind of get all interested
Wow.
in it.
Yeah.
And when I saw that came across the crawl, I was very interested because I just assumed, like I think a lot of people did, small plane. So I just went in the newsroom and I asked our editor, "Hey, plane hit the World Trade Center. Can you put it up on the big screen?" He did, just in time to watch the second plane hit. And I remember the gasp in the newsroom. Like, we realized at that point, you knew that wasn't an accident. It was just
Yeah.
the realization of that, and it was unprecedented, Joe. Because I mean, normally, you're doing this, you got a set schedule on what you want to do, all thrown totally into a loop. What do we do? Called my mom. You know, I think a lot of us did, or our dad, or whoever at that day,
Yeah.
if we weren't nearby them. And I do remember that, and I put it on Facebook. I think this morning, there's a young man, David Suarez, who was a Penn State grad, and I wouldn't say he was like my best friend, but I knew him, and he was in World Trade Center 1 when it hit on the
Wow.
90 floor. So he was right there when the first plane hit. Um, at that point. So, lost him that day. So,
Oh
but I
man.
remember everything about that. And my wife, she always talks about, she lived in Moon at the time. And she always talks about how, right there, you're in Moon, and the planes just stopped for a couple days. They weren't flying, and how eerie that was to be in Moon Township and not have the planes like right over your head like they usually are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just everything about that day I remember. Everything.
Yeah. My daughter was born a month before that. She was born in August of 2001, and my wife was at home taking care of her. And obviously we're there were no smartphones back then, so it was just calling on the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, afterwards, the entire country just shut down for like a couple weeks. And my daughter obviously was too young, and she asked me now, it's like, what was it like back then? It's like we were just, and there were no TV shows either. No, nothing on the TV or the radio. It was all just the news of
Yeah.
that. Every single station was just fixated on that.
Somebody brought that up today when I was talking with them. Even ESPN switched over to ABC News coverage at the
Yeah.
time. It's
Yeah.
like you couldn't even, not that you wanted to escape, but I mean, anything you put on, it was on 9/11 coverage. I
Yeah.
mean, it unprecedented to this point, and hopefully never happens like that again. But I just and I remember my nana. She compared it to like their Pearl Harbor, right? So she was part of the
Yeah.
greatest generation. She
Totally.
said, this is what it was like at Pearl Harbor,
Yeah.
and yeah. And imagine then there was really no TV to watch, so you're glued to a radio, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's still, you almost get a lump in your throat thinking about it. Still do.
Somebody posted on Instagram like a video of what the news shows were like when that happened and stuff. And then like at first I didn't want to look. It's like, I got to. We can't forget this. We can't ever
Mhm.
forget this feeling of what happened. So just a sad day, just so sad we lost so many people that day. So our thoughts and prayers are with everybody affected by that.
Absolutely.
Moving on. What the hell was that Steele? What the
You know,
hell was that?
we've done this for a little while together now. I think going on 2 years, and we've had wins and losses, but I don't know. Um, I can remember probably. I remember the 51-0 loss. I remember that 37-7 loss to Dallas. I think it was in '97. And they ended up having a decent year that year, and in '89 they made the playoffs too. And but man, Joe, they were unprepared, unfocused. Kenny looked awful. The offensive line looked awful. There was so many things you could go around, and I thought you were probably one of the first people I saw tweet about this the overconfidence thing. And I think you even maybe mentioned that last week, and I didn't dismiss you, but I kind of thought I don't know about them being overconfident. You were right. They win it. They take the ball. From the opening kickoff, they say we want the ball. I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? Put the defense on the field first.
Exactly.
What do? They go quick pass, jet sweep, and another slant pass, and then Kenny gets put on his butt. It looked like everything we thought was changed, everything we saw in preseason, everything we saw in Latrobe this spring, all of that stuff that we were thinking was going to happen. Granted, against a really great defense, a team I think is going to win the Super Bowl, was just shot to hell in a handbasket. They went right back to the Matt Canada we all hated and called for his job for. And
Yeah.
it's like they're back and right in our face. They couldn't do anything yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was overconfidence or arrogance or what, but my goodness. And it wasn't just one person. It was basically the only person that had a good game was TJ Watt. That's it. Everybody else just sucked.
Yeah, and when Anthony McFarland's probably the other better player, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
He looked great on kick returns.
He did. He did.
But I just don't know. I think that's what it was. All this anticipation and in preseason there, Kenny's throwing pass after pass downfield. He's chucking it to Deontay. He's chucking it to Pickens. And there was, the time he tried to chuck it to Pickens or to Deontay, the pass was high behind him. He had to put on the brakes to try to get it, and his feet out from under him. I don't know what was going on with the field conditions because it looked like the Pitt game the night before. I didn't see anybody slipping. So I don't know if they were wearing the wrong cleats. People were slipping. They were falling down.
I didn't see too many 49ers slipping, but I saw a whole bunch of Steelers slipping, which means one thing. Whoever runs the equipment at the Steelers screwed up and had them wearing the wrong shoes on your home turf.
I know, right? Get that wrong in Cleveland or Cincinnati. I get it, maybe. But in fact, if I recall, from what I'm told, I wasn't at the Pitt game. It was raining off and on at the Pitt game too, so you had that in there. It didn't rain during the Steeler game, so
here's a crazy idea. Maybe don't play games on Saturday night when you have a game on Sunday afternoon. Maybe allow, I don't know, at least 24 hours.
Yeah,
goodness.
I don't know how much that could have played into it.
Go back to Pitt Stadium, Pitt. Go back to Pitt Stadium. You go home.
Yes, I said that for years. Get it. I don't care if it's 20,000 seats. Put it back there.
Yeah.
But it led to some concerns. I think we got lucky in that instance because Kenny got killed. I thought Najee Harris had his head tore off his shoulders the next two sets later.
That one linebacker came flying and basically destroyed him. That was.
Yeah, you can't let that happen. And the offensive line is a train wreck right now. DJ Moore looked okay. There was one play, even I thought, what did you let happen there? He made his initial block. Kenny just held on to the ball too long.
Yeah.
So he had to, you're asking him to do a little too much. Granted, I feel like the 49ers, when the dust settles at the end of this year, providing no major injury on their end, I think the 49ers are standing there. And so I think they went up against what maybe the best team in the NFL, or at least from the NFC. But I think the frustration lies with the offense. The defense, look, in the first 17 minutes of that game, they gave up 17 points. They didn't look great either. Patrick Peterson, he may want to stop his podcast. No offense, but
hey, buddy, if you're gonna announce that the other team has tells, maybe save that for after the game. Maybe not, I don't say they use it as motivation, but don't be. Hey, I always say it ain't bragging if you could do it. Well, you didn't do it.
You didn't do it. You got burned twice.
Yeah.
You dropped 2 interceptions. He did not have a great game. Wallace didn't have a great game. Where were the rookies? Joey Porter Jr. had 1 tackle. I wonder what he would have had if he would have been in there longer. They look so good in the preseason. Where were they? Nowhere to be seen.
Why was why was Joey Porter? I think he only played like 8 snaps. It
Eight
was
snaps.
mostly Pat Peterson on the other on the one outside, and Joey Porter Jr. barely played all summer. We had you had Joey Porter Jr. out there with the ones, and now he's on the bench.
I,
Why?
yeah, I don't get that. And add salt to the wound. Now, breaking news right before we're recording this, Cam Hayward's out 8 weeks. Let me tell you something. He's 8 weeks is the surgery procedure. I'm no doctor. I just talked to a friend of mine that is. You imagine picking out 300-pound offensive lineman after you get off a groin surgery. I think we've lost Cam for the better part of the year. Um, you've just lost the now Leal's out next week too. I tell you what, you got the Browns coming in on Monday Night Football with a pretty good offensive line, Nick Chubb. I'm worried. I'm even more worried because the Steeler offense looked awful. And Matt Canada, look, he's been the offensive coordinator for 36 games now. And 27 of those games, that's 75%, they've scored 20 points or fewer. Last year, 21 of the 32 teams averaged 20 more points a game, except the Steelers. How this guy has a job is beyond me. I told you in our preseason, I told you, I don't know where I lost it. My no more excuses sign, I'd be holding it up. Because unless they rally Monday night, I just don't get it. I don't get it, Joe.
People say, well, this is just a failure of execution. It's Kenny Pickett's fault. It's not Matt Canada's fault. The plays are fine. He just didn't execute. Like you just said, it's 36 games under Matt Canada, 27 of those under 20 points or less. Why is Kenny Pickett, who is now in his second year, why is he looking that lost? Because
Agreed.
because Matt Canada's system is so freaking wonderful. I don't I don't
Yeah.
I don't tell me that it doesn't have anything to do with it. Uh, Kenny Pickett looked like he like that was like his second time ever picking up a football. He
I
looked
don't know. Look,
lost out there.
he totally did. And I think the sad part about that is that's not what we saw in the preseason. We saw a different Kenny.
Yeah,
Seemed like things were gelling, and I get it. I mean, and I saw a lot of the comments on the texts or on Twitter and Facebook and NFL Game Day and all that. Steeler fans thinking that the preseason's a real season. We didn't, but I think from our aspect of it was in the drives that we saw them, they were doing things we hadn't seen all last year that we've been hoping to see, and they were clicking. And yeah, it wasn't it was just a small piece of the pie, but the piece we were given was giving us confidence going into Sunday. Things were going to be different this year, and okay, the only thing I can think of is maybe you're going against probably one of the better defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL. I'll give you that. But I mean, still, to look as inept as they did, um, oh, I mean, it was bad.
the only time the offense looked any good was when they did hurry up. And when you do hurry up, that's when you take all the Matt Canada BS and you simplify it or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
now I said this, and I don't know anything, but other people saying that I heard Doran Dickerson saying the same exact thing. It's like, okay, it's not just me. There might be something there. And remember when Ben Roethlisberger was in this Matt Canada offense, the only time that offense ever worked was when he said, "Screw it, I'm just going to do whatever I want."
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's a culmination, isn't it? I think the pissed off fans, the boos. Although I'm not sure if the boos were louder the pit game, but
Nope.
Heinz Field just had a bad weekend as a well, Acrisure Stadium. Sorry,
Yeah.
Acrisure Stadium had a bad weekend as it was. Um, but I think that's it. It wasn't like we're just mad about this game. It's just whole culmination of this has not been the way it is. And I think, and the other thing is, I feel like we have the pieces in place for it to be a lot better than what it is. So, and then there's also that realization that they're probably not going to do anything with this guy until the end of the year. I mean, I don't know. Omar Khan's
No.
different. Omar Khan may, if they go in there next week and they get blown out 31-3, he may go down, kick the door down, and say you're done. He's nuts in a good way. So I can hold out that hope, but I don't
I
know.
could, I could see that because, you know, they wouldn't bring in a new offensive coordinator. They would just promote whoever the quarterback's coach is. I think his name is Mike Sullivan, which I
Yeah,
mean,
it would be.
the
Yeah,
guy's a coach of the Penguins, and the guy's I mean, the guy never sleeps. He's a coach of two, Pittsburgh teams. That's crazy, but it's not, you know, it's not, well, you can't bring in a new offensive coordinator with a whole new system in the middle of the season, but you can have somebody that calls better freaking plays or
yeah.
just simplifies the dang thing. I don't know, but uh, this is just
This is a city who recently, over the last, let's say, 2 decades almost, maybe a little less, they've been spoiled by, hey, we brought in Dan Bylsma and boom, turnaround, here we go.
yeah.
Then he got moldy, and we bring in Sullivan, and boom, we win 2 more cups. And I think that they just think, well, uh, and they might be right. I don't necessarily, I'm advocating for Tomlin to be gone, but I will say, hey, Tomlin brought him back. So my more, I really do feel like Canada is more the issue than maybe Tomlin is, but I don't know.
No,
And I'll tell you this,
Tomlin
Tomlin.
deserves Tomlin deserves blame too,
Oh yeah,
because this is yet another year where they start off slow. Last year they started 1-3. 2019 they started 1-3. I think the year before that they started. The only time they didn't start slow was that COVID year. And I'm sorry, you throw that year out the window. That year
no
was
doubt.
insane. But you start slow every single September. That's no coincidence. That's on the coaches not preparing them. They're not
Well,
getting them ready. They did not get them ready for this game.
no, they just, and I realized it was that a 49ers team that's just steamrolling like I mean they're coming in as hot as they were at the end of last year. It didn't look like they skipped a beat, and it looked like we should have came in hot too, and it looked like we just kind of went back to square one. We didn't look like the team that went 7-2 over 9 weeks. Things were clicking. The preseason we looked good. And I don't know if a lot of Steeler fans were expecting Pittsburgh to win yesterday. I had them losing in a close game. To lose like that was just, I think everybody would be a lot more in a better place if it would have been a 23-21 loss, or we lose by a field goal in the fourth. We hung in there. We had to lead for a little bit, whatever. There is such a thing as a good loss. There was nothing good about that loss yesterday.
Kenny Pickett was 31 of 46 for 232 yards, one touchdown, and two interceptions. That if you didn't see the game, it's like, oh wow, 232 yards. That's not too bad. No, he stunk. But to your point about San Francisco, that is a darn good team. And Brock Purdy had elbow surgery, and the dude looked just fine.
It was good.
Um, that is a freaking that offense, not just the offense, though, but that is almost like a freaking all-star team. Um, Christian McCaffrey is probably the best running back in the NFL. Uh, uh, Ayuk is a monster. Debo Samuel's good. Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the league. That is, and then on the on the defensive side, you have Bosa and that what was his name, Warner, that
Yeah, he was
Fred
incredible.
Warner is maybe one of the best linebackers in the league. That is a loaded team. And Brock Purdy, I've always trashed him. I didn't think he was good enough, but he's perfect for that system. He is the ultimate system quarterback, and he is perfect for because Kyle Shanahan is a genius, and they got the same brain. And it's every almost every play, it's like Purdy was throwing to a wide open dude. It's like he was almost never getting touched, and someone was always wide open, and that's just their brain. That's just the plays they go. He's the anti Matt Canada. As stupid as Matt Canada is, Shanahan is that much smarter.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the separation that Ayuk and Samuels were getting yesterday was really pretty concerning. And I mean, just different wheel routes, a couple of slants, it's changed their patterns up, and yeah, I mean, it really looked like Pittsburgh didn't know whether to sit or wind its watch, to steal a term from the great Mike Lang. It was not great, and they looked just kind of lost. Like I said, you can say, well, at least the defense Watt had 3 sacks. Yeah, but in the same vein, they give up 17 points in 17 minutes. And most of that game was played on the other side of the 50-yard line. Percy Harvin again, another shank crappy
Oh
punt.
my God. Just cut the dude already.
But he was the guy in
Oh,
preseason. It was just killing it. And it's like, what happened in these last 17 days? Did you guys take a trip? Did you go on vacation? Did you just not realize? I mean, uh, that's the thing. Now you do have the extra day, so you got what 8 days to prepare technically for the Browns. I really think that this is kind of the measuring stick. If they don't come in and at least lose with dignity, maybe a 17-13 loss if it's going to be a loss. If they get blown out again, I there's going to be trouble. I just
what?
I just
Yeah.
feel. I mean, I
What's
had them losing to the 49ers, and then I actually figured they'd split Cleveland this year. I had them at 2-1 in 3 weeks. Right now, I mean, I think we might be
Cleveland
looking
look
at.
good? They beat it now, you know, Cleveland destroying Cincinnati gives us hope because obviously Cincinnati is not that bad. And
Right.
they looked even worse. Joe Burrow even looked even worse than Kenny Pickett. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that gives you hope. That's okay. Yeah, it's week one. Week one is weird. You don't know what you have. And that's why I kind of think maybe getting smacked in the mouth is a good thing because there's no, like, if they lost 23-21 or something like that, they probably thought, we're still good. We just, it's a good team and they got lucky or whatever. It's like when you get smacked in the mouth that bad, a total domination, you got to question everything and you better fix it real quick because this is a division game. This isn't an NFC game, which has less importance. This is a division game. This is absolutely must win at home.
Well, it is. It's a great point. And this season really starts this week because we said that. I mean, I don't, other than in the AFC, um, maybe Denver and, the Texans, I would say, don't have a shot at making the playoffs. I think everybody else has a decent shot, maybe even the Colts now.
Yeah.
They played pretty well against Jacksonville the other day, and Richardson looked like what I thought he would. He's looking like a stud.
Yeah.
Uh, every game counts, and even that Raiders game that might decide a wild card down the road. So I would take solace in at least they know this Browns team, they know how to play against them. But man, I tell you, if you let Myles Garrett run loose like you did these guys, it's going to be a long night for Pittsburgh.
The Browns have a new defensive coordinator, and he seems to really have improved that defense. And
Yeah.
uh, I mean, uh, Deshaun Watson didn't look great, but Nick Chubb is amazing. And yeah, let's talk about the injuries. Cam Hayward out for who knows how long. Maybe
Yep.
4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, maybe the whole season, like you said. I don't know. Deontay Johnson, I hope that's nothing bad with the hamstring, because I mean he is their number one receiver.
Well,
That would stink.
yeah, I mean, now all of a sudden you're pretty much relying on Allen Robinson to step up, which I have confidence he could be a guy that could probably fill that role. Um, I worry about Deontay though. I mean, mentally, right? Like last year, no touchdowns. He's the kind of guy that could say, "Hey, you know what? This just hasn't worked out." And that's the thing too. If this keeps going on this long, these players are going to lose confidence in Matt Canada real quick. You know how it is in today's
Mm-hmm.
NFL. Guys like him and Pickens are not going to want to stick around. So they have a lot to figure out here in these next 8 days, and they better show up for Cleveland. That's all I got to say. This can't be a 31-3 route. This cannot be
Oh
that bad. This
God.
has got to
Oh
be a
my God.
competitive
Oh my
game.
God.
And I hate to say that because it's Cleveland, but and hats off to the Browns because they're looking great. You know, fans deserve it, but you better make this close because I'll take a Browns loss if you're at least again in the game.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we do this podcast next week, and we're sitting here. They're 0-2 after being blanked by more than 3 touchdowns almost both times.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
we
my
may
God.
be trouble in River City, as my
I
dad likes to
mean,
say.
we've seen this happen before. You bring up 51-0. That was to the Browns, and then they lost the next week to the Bengals, I think 41-10 or something like that.
42-10. Yeah,
42-10. There you go.
yeah. Good job. Good
That's
memory.
funny.
Yeah.
You have a good memory. There was another time under Tomlin where they started absolutely horrible. And I remember I'm sorry, under
Well,
Cower they started out horribly one time.
yeah.
There was, and then the year they went to England, They started at 0-4 or something like that. That was a waste of a year. So
Yeah, Bill Cowher had his own faults with that too. You know, that
yeah.
'97 team, they started off bad and then they swung things around, became 11-5. I guess it's a lot, right? It's week one, and I always kind of hate week one. It's the hardest for handicapping. It's hardest for
Oh yeah.
picking. You just never really know. I mean, you have an idea. I mean, everyone knew kind of 49ers would be good. The Eagles would probably be good. But it's the teams like the Steelers, you're kind of like, well, what team are we going to get here? And that's the same thing with the Browns. Like I had the Browns at the bottom of the AFC North. It wasn't out of disrespect. It's just that the AFC North so cutthroat killer.
Yeah.
Um, but now the Browns are 1-0, and look, the Ravens lost Dobbins. He's gone for the
Yeah.
year. That kid has had a rough go of it in the NFL.
That stinks. Yeah.
So now it's really anybody's go, and that's what it was. It was like wasn't we only saw Deshaun Watson week 11 on, so I just didn't know where to put the Browns based on. I'm not sure what we saw last year versus this year. And but you're right with the Browns coming in, it's a division game. It's huge. I feel like they can get by if they split some of these series, but I think they got to. I think they got to sweep either one of these three to have a chance of making the playoffs. So I don't know. They better get their act together because that's the thing with the NFL, Joe. The NFL and college football, right? They're the shortest seasons. We can go through a losing. You can have a bad month in baseball, hockey, the
Right.
NBA. Heck, you can crash in a couple races in NASCAR and still, make the playoffs and possibly win the NASCAR championship. You crash too much in the NFL, there's no recovery. I mean,
Right.
you know, you're just
Yeah.
they always start that right because somebody's going to start 0-3 here, something like that, and they're going to start throwing the stats. Teams that are going 0-3 have a 17% chance of making it. I do not want to see the Steelers in that, but damn,
I hate those. I hate those stats. It's every single time they come out with those. Yeah.
yeah, it's always that first month review. Boy, and I couldn't have started off worse. You can only hope it gets a little bit better.
Yeah. And then there was the thing where about half the stadium was filled with 49ers fans. I,
So,
I don't
yeah,
get this.
you said that on Twitter, and I talked to three of my buddies today in the car. I had a long ride today, and all three of them sold their Steeler tickets for no less than $400. Um,
Okay, but did they sell them like did they just blindly, put them for sale and then not know
yes,
who picked them up? Yeah,
right.
that's
It reminded me. My wife and I, we had Penguin season tickets for years and years and years, and we would always sell our Toronto Maple Leafs games because the Leafs fans would pay
oh
an
yeah.
absorbent amount. I mean, it could
Uh-huh.
be like a Tuesday night game in October, and they're forking over $200 a ticket. And I mean,
The
the baseball is like
Toronto people
65 bucks.
take over the town. It is
Well, I mean, the Leafs are
crazy.
here, and it's so. I guess and I guess I talked to some Pitt people. I guess the San Francisco fans were at the Pitt game too.
Okay.
They just whatever. I guess
Makes
they
sense.
locked up. Yeah. So, but yeah, come on, season ticket holders. Really? I
I
mean,
don't yeah, that's okay. So, these people aren't selling tickets because, at first I thought it was like these rich San Francisco people coming in and, like the $1 million man just offering, money. It's like, I'm gonna take your tickets and you have no choice. Everybody has a price for the $1 million man. No, they're putting up the tickets. But the question is, why are they putting up the tickets? This is the home opener. Why would you even try to sell those tickets?
in the first home opener in what, like 6 years?
Right.
And like,
Right.
and I looked at that and I rewound the TV. I'm like, damn, that's a lot of red. And then I think Paul Zeiss maybe tweeted this is maybe the most fans he ever saw. Visiting fans take over a Steeler stadium like that. I mean, that's something that we're usually proud of. It's usually Yinzers take over, but I mean, it's just and that's the thing. If that game were in San Francisco, there'd be like 30,000, Steeler Nation guys and girls there
Right.
waving their terrible
Right.
towels. And it happens everywhere. I couldn't get over that Chargers Jets or that Chargers Dolphins game when Waddle goes over, or no, it was Tyreek Hill goes over the sidelines and he's twirling that Miami Dolphin towel. And there's thousands of Miami. I mean, the Charger fan base has to be the worst fan base in all professional sports.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
we
There
sure as
there's
hell didn't
there
look much better with all that red, and that wasn't Heinz. That wasn't Heinz ketchup T-shirts in the stands.
um so in September of 2015, San Francisco was here, and I was at that game. There were a few 49ers fans. Nothing like because apparently so I didn't I may have not watched the whole game because I was so damn mad. But at the end, apparently at the end, like all the Steelers fans left, and it was just all the 49ers fans in the stadium really taking it over. And it's like, wow. Wow. I mean, that's crazy, but maybe it's
Yeah,
like the Toronto thing. The reason why there's so many Toronto fans is because you can't get a ticket for a Leafs game in Toronto. It
right.
costs too much. It's cheaper to come down to Pittsburgh and get a ticket there. Maybe it's cheaper to fly to
That's
Pittsburgh to see your
well,
team.
they say
That,
that
that-
about San Francisco. I mean, I never
yeah.
thought we'd talk about this on the podcast, but what's that show where they look at the three houses on HGTV and then they pick a. My wife and I will watch that, and like they're in San Francisco, there's no parking at all at these houses, and it's like a bedroom and a half, a bathroom, and $3.5 million. It's
Right.
like what?
Right.
And
Right. A house that would cost 50,000 in Pittsburgh would, cost 3 million in San
right.
Francisco. So yeah.
That might be the thing. Maybe they just travel because it's cheaper to fly to Pittsburgh and go to a Steeler game in Pittsburgh than just go to a 49ers game in San Francisco. So
Yeah.
yeah, Joe, a lot of problems to fix, a lot of concerns with Cam, Deontay. You know, they're Loudermilk and the boys better step it up
Uh,
because
One thing that brings me a little bit of hope about that is supposedly the defensive line is supposed to be, that have a lot of depth there. So maybe Benton can play
yeah, Ogunjobi,
more.
Adams. I mean, yeah, but I tell you, I mean, you're asking a lot because you talk about Christian McCaffrey being about the best back in the NFL. I would agree with that. But I tell you, I think Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb are right there in tier B. I
Yeah.
mean
Yep.
and Chubb, that's kind of running he likes. He likes coming right at you. So they are going to have their hands full on Monday night.
Yeah, you cannot, and I mean, there have been a lot of changes on that defense from last year to this year. And they said, well, that's okay because it's mostly veterans and they'll all figure it out. Like, really? I don't care. I don't care who you are. You're not just gonna magically figure this out. It's like
Yeah,
just wear the right shoes, people.
it's I think why it's so daunting right now to Steeler fans or you and I doing this is there's just so much that needs fixed. It's not like one thing. It's like, well, hey, we held the 49ers to 17 points. We lost, but, the offense it's just a Matt Canada thing. I mean, it was a defense thing. It was an offensive thing. It was a special teams thing again. It was a coaching thing again. It was an execution. We've lost some home openers, but they weren't like this.
I
Whew.
believe this. I think I saw that this was the worst home loss of the Tomlin era, and I believe that. I believe that.
And
I
I'll
don't. I
tell
don't.
you, everyone says, well, he's such a robot in his post game. I sat there and watched post game. He looked a little PO'd.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's been a while since I saw him. He was kind of sitting there doing this and doing that. I always tell my son, I can tell he'll tell me, well, I'm not mad, Dad, but he's doing this and kind of doing,
Right.
and like, I know you're mad,
Your
right?
words say one thing, your body says another
Your
thing.
body says
Yeah.
another thing. And he gets that from me because I got the body language too. But Tomlin had the body language. He was kind of shifty. The cross was swinging. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe that's what they need. I hate to be talking about this in week one. Might as well have been week 0 because they laid an egg pretty much. But hopefully that lights the spark that needs to be lit. And at least it's a familiar opponent. At least it's not like another NFC opponent they haven't seen in a while, like the Lions or somebody, the Bears or somebody coming in. At least it's a familiar foe that they've had success with recently. So I don't know.
They just need the biggest thing they need is to get Kenny Pickett right. Hopefully that was just a bad game. That was
Yep.
just, just a brain fart or whatever. Get him right, get him to make some good throws, and that would hopefully set everything off. The defense, make the offense have sustained drives so the defense doesn't have to be out there all the time. Because I mean, generally they play well against Deshaun Watson. So
Yeah.
and I mean, not the trash Highsmith, but he was going against like the best tackle on the planet.
Well, I mean,
So
he's going Trent. He's going to Hall of Fame. I mean, he'll
oh yeah,
be in Canton in a few years. It's no question. He's arguably the best at his position in the entire league.
yeah,
You talk about the run though. That reminds me of one other thing I hadn't written down here. It seemed to me like we just abandoned the run right away. Like, and I get it. I know their defensive line was tough, but like we weren't going to Harris, we weren't going to Warren. I mean, we weren't going to McFarland, we weren't going to anybody. I'm thinking,
yeah.
well, guys, I mean, establish the run a little bit. I know it seems you got down a little bit. Get back to the run a little bit. They just, and again, is that a Matt Canada thing? I don't know, but it was just total, just chaos and just, I don't know,
And
befuddling.
despite all that, a horrible first half, they come back and they score a touchdown, and it's 20-7. It's like, okay,
Right.
wow, we're only down 2 scores. That's not bad. And it's higher half to go. And then because they decided to, and they won the toss and decided to take the ball, 49ers get it right back. And immediately, before people even get to sit back down, McCaffrey runs down the field. And oh my goodness, that
Yeah,
was just.
I left and came back, and I see him going down the field. I'm just like, no.
And then
Um,
you look at the replay, and a couple guys got blocked into the next county.
Oh, Ayuk just it looked like Keystone Cops. Ayuk just peeled a guy. I mean, Wallace had it. I mean, I don't want to pick on anybody too individually, but Wallace had a horrible game in the backfield. Horrible. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much that needs to be corrected in only 8 days. I just hope they can do it. I
That's
mean, really, we sit in here and do this. There's probably two guys somewhere in Stowe, Ohio, right now doing the Brownies podcast, and they got a lot to be excited about and a lot to be pumped up about coming into
you
this game.
know it's funny. I was on a Browns podcast a few weeks ago, and they were asking about Kenny Pickett, and they said, well, what if he's not good? I'm like, what are you talking about? That's impossible. Of course he's good. Of course he'll be better. That's not even a possibility that Kenny Pickett could possibly be as bad as last year. There's no way.
Then you remember Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator, and
That's exactly what I said. It's like, well, but what if he sucks? Is like, if Kenny Pickett has a bad year, it's because of Matt Canada. So fine, yeah, he's done. So,
yeah, yep.
oh boy, oh boy, I did not expect it to be like this. This is
I
the
me
last thing
either.
I expected.
Me either. I know.
So
I was yeah.
we
Whew.
will see. We will see.
Yeah.
Oof, 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 oof. Just please, please, please play well against the Browns.
All
Please.
you can hope for. I mean, at this
That's
point, it
all you
really
can
is.
hope. That's all you can
Yep.
do is hope.
Yep.
All right, sir. I'd like to say I feel better. Now I'm just actually even more angry after talking it
Glad I
out.
could help. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, really. You think, if you vent you just get it out, you do feel better. It's like, no, I'm just not. Now I'm even more angry.
Right. Right.
I love that Mean Joe Green statue. That is amazing.
That came from Canton. Thanks. That came from Canton, Ohio, a
No
number of years
way.
ago. We actually had our
Wow.
fantasy draft there. Back then, they were allowing you to do it for a cheaper price, so we did it there. And I just picked up that guy there. I thought it was kind of cool. So,
Very cool.
thank you,
Very
thank
cool.
you.
All right, sir. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. Take care.
See you.